Welcome back to the shadows, my fellow night owls. Tonight we delve into the eerie world of graves that cry out in the night. Imagine, if you will, a cemetery bathed in the cold light of a full moon. A light wind rustles through the trees, their branches casting skeletal shadows across the weathered tombstones. But something else cuts through the quiet stillness. A sound, a sob, a moan. Prepare yourself for 3 terrifying tales of tombs that emit unexplainable sounds, graves that seem to cry out from beyond the veil, whispering their secrets to the darkness. These are the stories that send chills down your spine and make you question the silence of the grave. Are you brave enough to listen? Because tonight the dead are restless and their cries echo in the night. Our first tale takes us to the weathered, moss-covered stones of St. Mary's Cemetery. An old place, shrouded in whispers and shadows even in the daylight. Locals will tell you that the cemetery is haunted, cursed even. They speak of cold spots, strange lights, and most unsettling of all, the sound of a woman weeping. It's said to emanate from a particular grave, a modest headstone barely visible beneath the twisting branches of an ancient oak. The stone is worn, the inscription barely visible. But those who have dared to get close enough claim it reads, Eleanor Wright, 1852 to 1889. May her soul find peace. Peace. It seems Eleanor Wright has found anything but. Those living near the cemetery have reported hearing her cries late at night. A low, mournful sobbing that seems to seep up from the very ground itself. Some say she weeps for a lost love, her heart buried with him in that very cemetery. Others whisper of a life tragically cut short, her restless spirit unable to find peace. One chilling account comes from a young woman named Sarah, who lived across the street from St. Mary's. Sarah, drawn by a morbid curiosity, found herself compelled to visit the cemetery late one foggy night. As she walked along the uneven ground, a sense of dread washed over her. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen sorrow. And then she heard it. A soft sob carried on the damp night air. It seemed to be coming from deeper within the cemetery, beckoning her forward. Heart pounding, Sarah pushed through the fog, her hand outstretched, brushing against the cold, damp stone. It was then that she saw it, a faint light emanating from Eleanor Wright's grave. As she drew closer, the sobbing grew louder, morphing into a gut-wrenching wail. Fear, primal and consuming, gripped Sarah. She stumbled back, fleeing the cemetery as fast as she could. The cries followed her, echoing in her ears long after she'd reached the safety of her home. Sarah never returned to St. Mary's, but the memory of that night of Eleanor Wright's anguished cries continues to haunt her. The weeping woman of St. Mary's serves as a chilling reminder that some wounds run too deep, some pains echo beyond the grave. And in the quiet stillness of a moonlit night, if you listen closely, you might just hear her cries yourself. Next, we journey to the crumbling facade of Blackwood Manor, a once grand estate now surrendered to decay and shrouded in an eerie silence. The manor itself is steeped in tragic history, a tapestry woven from misfortune and despair. But it is within the manor's overgrown graveyard, hidden amongst the gnarled trees, that our next tale unfolds. Here lies the Whispering Tomb, a mausoleum more imposing, more ornate than any other in the graveyard. It belongs to the Blackwood family, their names etched into the cold stone, their stories silenced by time. Legends say that the patriarch of the Blackwood family, Silas, made a dark pact for wealth and power at an unspeakable cost. It's said that Silas traded the souls of his family for his own success, and when he met his demise, his victims sought their revenge. Now visitors report hearing whispers from within the sealed crypt, faint murmurs seeping through the cracks in the stone. Some claim they are the voices of Silas's victims, forever trapped within their stone prison. Others believe it is Silas himself, his soul tormented, seeking to share his secrets. One chilling account comes from a young historian, Edward, who decided to investigate the whispers for himself. Armed with a recorder and a lantern, Edward ventured into the overgrown graveyard. As he approached the Whispering Tomb, A cold wind extinguished his lantern, plunging him into darkness. He fumbled for a match, his heart pounding, the silence pressing in, and then he heard it. A faint whisper just at the edge of his hearing. His hand trembling, Edward raised his recorder, holding his breath as he pressed record. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices rising from the darkness. Edward strained to make out the words, a chill crawling down his spine as he recognized his own name. Panic welled up inside him, a primal urge to flee. But as the whispers reached a fever pitch, he finally broke free, fleeing back down the path. Edward never returned to Blackwood Manor, but the recording he captured serves as a chilling reminder of the secrets within the whispering tomb. A reminder that some deals, once made, can never be undone, and some whispers are better left unheard. Our final tale, the most unsettling of all, brings us to the crumbling gates of Ravenwood Cemetery. Encompassed by a dense forest, shrouded in perpetual twilight, Ravenwood has long been avoided by locals. It is a place where the very air feels heavy with sorrow, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, too thin. Deep within this forsaken ground lies a crypt, unvisited, untouched for over a century. It is said to belong to a man named Elias Croft, a man accused of unspeakable acts, a man buried alive within those very walls. Those who have dared to venture near the crypt speak of an oppressive air, a palpable sense of dread that clings to the very stones. But most unsettling of all are the sounds, blood-curdling screams, filled with such anguish, such raw terror, that they chill you to the very bone. Some say they are the cries of Elias Croft himself, his soul forever tormented by the manner of his death, his screams echoing through the ages. Others believe the crypt has become a conduit, a gateway to somewhere far darker, and the screams are those of souls trapped on the other side, begging for release. One harrowing account comes from a group of teenagers, their curiosity getting the better of their fear, who dared to venture into Ravenwood one Halloween night. They had heard the stories, of course, dismissed them as mere ghost stories told to frighten children. But as they stepped through the rusted gates of Ravenwood, a sense of unease settled over them. The air grew colder, the darkness deeper, as if the very forest itself was watching their every move. They pressed on, drawn by a morbid curiosity, until they stood before the imposing crypt of Elias Croft. Even in the darkness, they could feel its malevolent presence, a palpable aura of suffering and despair. As if on cue, the first scream ripped through the silence. It was a gut-wrenching sound, filled with such raw terror that the teenagers froze in their tracks. The scream went on and on, echoing through the graveyard, seeming to claw its way up from the very depths of the earth. Panic surged through the group, and they turned to flee, their fear propelling them through the darkness. But the screams followed them, growing louder, closer, as if something was pursuing them through the trees. They burst through the cemetery gates, gasping for breath, their clothes torn by unseen branches, their faces pale with terror. None of them spoke of what they had experienced that night, but the memory of those screams, the sheer terror etched onto their faces, was enough to silence any doubters. The screams from beneath Ravenwood serve as a chilling reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, some stories better left untold. Because sometimes the dead do scream, and their cries are not meant for the ears of the living. As the echoes of those tormented cries fade into the night, we are left with a lingering sense of unease. These are just a few of the many graves that cry out in the night. Their stories remain a mystery, leaving us to wonder what truly lies beneath. The next time you find yourself walking past a cemetery shrouded in the silence of the night, listen closely. You might just hear a whisper, a sob, a scream, reaching out from beyond the veil. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-chilling tales. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe, for the shadows are deep and the night is always listening.